In today's child seat review segment, we're taking a look at the 2015 Nissan Pathfinder. Now, since the Pathfinder and the Infiniti QX60 are almost the same vehicle, one's just the luxury version of the other, this child seat review also applies to that Infiniti model. The child seat I use in my reviews is this Graco Classic Ride 50 child seat because it's a very average size seat. It's also a convertible seat, meaning it's suitable for forward or rearward facing installation and children between 4 and 50 pounds. The important thing to note is that you can find wider and larger seats than this, but you can also find smaller seats than this. This is a very middle of the road size, so depending on the vehicle you're trying to put child seats in, you may have a little bit more room or you may have a little bit less room. The first step is to adjust the front seat. You should know that the Pathfinder has one of the largest combined legroom figures in this segment, and that's first row plus second row plus third row legroom. That means that you can actually fit taller people in general in the Pathfinder in all 3 rows. Some vehicles may have a little bit more legroom up front, but they really compromise on third row legroom. This is more evenly distributed. I'm going to adjust the seat so I have about an inch between my legs and the dashboard, and the seat back in a relatively upright position. With the front seat in that position, I had no problem installing this Graco Classic Ride 50 seat in the rearward facing position. But I have it strapped in the forward facing position because there's something a little bit more interesting about the Pathfinder than the rearward facing accommodations. It's actually the way this seat moves. If I pull this lever right here, you'll notice I don't have to remove this child seat for this seat to actually slide forward and then give you enough room to get into the third row. The Infiniti QX60 and the Nissan Pathfinder are really the only 2 vehicles in their segments that allow you to do this. Some of the other vehicles out there do have seats that move forward when a child seat is engaged, but you don't have this kind of access room. Now that said, the important thing to keep in mind is that the Infiniti QX60 and the Nissan Pathfinder can only do this on this 40% folding seat that is on the passenger side. So on the driver's side, this 60% bench seat folds in an entirely different way, and you cannot leave child seats in this side and get to that third row. Both the 40 and the 60% side of the second row do slide forward and backward to again allow you to apportion the space front to rear a little bit more than you find in some of the competition. Another takeaway that may not be immediately obvious is that this child seat is actually firmly on this 40% side of the seat. That means I could put a slightly wider child seat on this passenger side and still articulate the seat in that manner. Now that's important because a number of the other vehicles in this segment, when you have this Graco Classic Ride 50 seat on the 40% side, you cannot flip and fold the 60% side properly because there's just not enough clearance. And in this vehicle, there's about 2 inches of clearance. You can actually fit a slightly wider child seat right here and still do the same thing. From this angle, you can see what's different about the 60% side. The seat back folds a little bit forward, the bottom comes up, and then this whole contraption slides a little bit further forward than the 40% side when the child seat is in. But you can see we still get a very sizable opening there, and on the 40% side. It's just a little bit bigger over here on the 60. As you'd expect from a vehicle that is this large, I had no problem fitting 3 child seats into the second row. The majority of 3-row crossovers out on the market may be able to hold 7 or 8 people, but they certainly can't hold 7 or 8 people's worth of luggage. Well, that also applies to the Nissan Pathfinder or the QX60. We have an awful lot more room back here behind the third row than you'll find in most models. This is a significant amount more than you'll find in the Toyota Highlander or the Kia Sorento especially. When comparing the Pathfinder to some of the larger entries like the Chevy Traverse or the GMC Acadia, or even the Tahoe or the Suburban, you need to decide whether passenger room or cargo room is more important to you. We actually have about the same amount of cargo room as you find in the Chevy Tahoe, but the Chevy Suburban does give you a decent amount more room behind the third row. It is a much larger vehicle, however. This is just a little bit smaller than the Chevy Traverse, and most of that size difference actually happens right back here in the cargo area because you do get about 10 cubic feet more room in the Traverse. Still, I can fit this 26-inch roller bag and a 24-inch roller bag side by side in the back. You can pile some additional cargo right up there. And if I take these bags out of the trunk, then you'll notice that we have a load floor that pops up and we have some additional storage space right here in a cargo storage well. It's just about big enough that you can put this 24-inch roller bag in this direction in that storage well. You can also put it very upright like that. Now our particular model has the optional Bose sound system, so there is a subwoofer on the other side of this cargo compartment that does take up a little bit of room. From the back, you can see the single top tether anchor on the right side of the third row. Third row is very easy to fold. We just flip and fold the headrests and then the seat back cushions. And as you can see, we have a very large amount of room at this point right back here. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Again, I'm Alex Dykes, and this has been the 2015 Nissan Pathfinder. If you want to know more about the Pathfinder, then check out the full review on this vehicle coming up very soon on my channel. You can also check out the full review of the Infiniti QX60 hybrid on my channel as well. It's essentially the luxury hybrid version of this exact same vehicle. I'll see you next week.